Hey everyone, welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm Jason, and I'm really happy you're here with us today. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in an English conversation where you understood the question perfectly? You knew the words you wanted to use, but suddenly your brain seemed to say, "Wait, give me a second." And by the time you finally created your answer, the conversation had already moved on?
Oh, absolutely. And I think so many English learners experience exactly that. You may know hundreds or even thousands of English words. You may understand movies, podcasts, or conversations. But when someone suddenly asks you a simple question, you need several seconds to think, translate, build the sentence, and then finally speak.
Exactly, Julia. So today, we're going to work on something very important. How to think faster and speak clearer in English without trying to use difficult vocabulary or perfect sentences all the time.
And the best part is that you can start practicing these techniques today, even if your English is still at a beginner or intermediate level.
So, stay with us, because by the end of this episode, you'll have simple techniques that can help you respond faster, organize your thoughts, and speak English with much more confidence.
Let's get started.
Let's do it! Julia, before we talk about how to speak faster, I think we should explain something important. Because many English learners become frustrated when they can understand a lot of English, but still cannot answer quickly when someone talks to them.
That's true, Jason, and honestly, it can feel very confusing. You might listen to an English podcast and understand most of the conversation, or watch a video and recognize many words. But when someone looks at you and says, "What did you do yesterday?" Suddenly your mind becomes quiet and you start thinking, "Okay, how do I say this?"
Exactly. And the problem is usually not that you don't know English. The problem is that your brain is taking too many steps before you speak. You hear the question in English, then you translate it into your first language. You think about your answer in your first language. You translate that answer back into English, and finally you try to say it.
And all those extra steps take time. For example, if someone asks, "What do you usually do in the evening?" Instead of immediately thinking, "I usually watch videos and study English," you might first think about the meaning in your own language and then search for the English words.
Right. And that is why, today, we want you to remember one simple idea. You don't need to think harder. You need to train your brain to think more directly in English.
And don't worry if you cannot do that immediately. It is a skill, just like pronunciation or listening, and with regular practice, your brain can become faster and more comfortable.
Exactly. So now, let's look at the first technique that can help you stop translating every sentence and start thinking directly in simple English. All right, Julia, let's start with the first technique. And honestly, this is one of the biggest changes an English learner can make if they want to respond faster. The technique is simple. Stop translating every sentence in your head. Now, I know that sounds difficult, especially if you have studied English by translating words and sentences. But you don't have to stop translating everything overnight.
Exactly, Jason. The goal is to slowly teach your brain that English can have a direct connection to an idea, an action, or a feeling, without always going through your first language. For example, when you see a glass of water, instead of thinking about the word for water in your language and then searching for the English word, simply look at the water and think, water.
Yes, and you can start with very simple thoughts that you already use every day. When you wake up, think, I'm awake. When you feel hungry, think, I'm hungry. When you need to leave, think, I need to go. When you look outside and see rain, think, "It's raining." These sentences are simple, but they are powerful because you are connecting real situations directly with English.
And here's another important point. Don't worry about making your thoughts complicated. If you are walking to work, you don't need to think, I am currently making my way toward my workplace because I have an important responsibility this morning. Just think, I'm going to work.
Exactly. Simple English is fast English. The more you practice these small thoughts throughout your day, the more natural it becomes to think directly in English. And eventually, you'll notice that your brain starts producing English without waiting for a translation.
So today, look around you and describe what you see, what you are doing, and what you are feeling. But do it with simple English.
And remember, don't translate every thought. Connect the thought directly to English. Now, let's move to our second technique, because even when you stop translating, you may still spend too much time searching for the right words. So, Julia, what can learners do when they know the words but cannot put them together quickly?
One of the easiest solutions is to learn ready-made speaking patterns instead of memorizing hundreds of individual words. A speaking pattern is simply a sentence structure that you can use again and again with different words, different situations, and different ideas.
Exactly. For example, instead of learning the words usually, morning, coffee, and work separately, you can practice a useful pattern like, I usually. Then you can quickly create many sentences. I usually wake up at 7. I usually drink coffee in the morning. I usually study English after work. Or, I usually watch a movie before I go to bed.
And notice what happens, Jason. We don't have to build the whole sentence from zero every time. The beginning, I usually, is already familiar. So the brain only needs to choose the next information.
Right. Here are a few patterns that English learners can practice every day. I think, I feel like, I'm not sure, but the reason is, what I mean is, and in my opinion. Once these patterns become automatic, you can use them without spending too much time thinking about grammar.
Let's try one quickly. Jason, ask me a question.
Okay, Julia. What do you like to do in your free time?
I usually spend time with my family, watch something interesting, and sometimes practice my English.
See? That was quick, natural, and clear. You didn't need a complicated sentence because the pattern helped you start speaking immediately.
Exactly. So instead of memorizing English one word at a time, start collecting useful phrases and sentence patterns that you can actually use in real conversations.
And the more you repeat those patterns, the faster they will come to your mind when you need them. Now let's move to our third technique, because thinking faster is only half of the goal. You also want people to understand you easily, and one of the best ways to make your English clearer is to speak in short thought groups instead of trying to say one very long sentence without stopping.
I really like this technique because many learners think that speaking English well means creating long, complicated sentences. But that's not true at all. In real conversations, clear speakers often express one idea, pause naturally, and then continue with the next idea.
Exactly. Imagine I want to tell you about my morning. Instead of saying, this morning I woke up late because I stayed up too long last night watching a movie, and then I quickly got ready because I didn't want to be late for work. I can simply break it into smaller parts. I woke up late this morning. I stayed up too late last night. I was watching a movie. So I got ready very quickly.
And Jason, that actually sounds much easier to understand. And it also feels easier to say. because you don't have to remember the entire sentence before you start speaking.
Exactly. So, here's a simple structure you can remember. Main idea, reason, example. For example, if someone asks, "Do you like learning English?" you can say, "Yes, I do. I enjoy learning English because it helps me communicate with more people." For example, I can understand English videos and podcasts.
That's a great structure because each thought has enough space to breathe and your listener can follow your message without getting lost.
And remember, a short pause is not a mistake. A natural pause can actually make you sound more confident because you are giving yourself a moment to organize your next idea.
So don't rush just because you want to sound fluent. Speak clearly, divide your ideas into small groups, and let your words come naturally.
Exactly. Think in small ideas, speak in small groups, and let your English become clearer and faster at the same time. Okay, Julia, I think it's time to put everything we've learned into a real conversation. Because it's easy to understand a technique when we explain it, but the real test is whether you can actually use it when someone asks you a question.
Absolutely, Jason. Let's imagine that we're just having a normal conversation, and I'll try to answer naturally without translating every word or building a perfect sentence in my head.
Great! Julia, here's your first question. What did you do yesterday?
Yesterday, I woke up a little late, then I had breakfast, and after that, I studied English for about an hour. In the afternoon, I went outside and spent some time with my family.
Very good. Notice how Julia didn't try to create one huge sentence. She gave us small thought groups. I woke up a little late. Then I had breakfast. After that, I studied English. That makes the answer easy to understand and easy to produce.
And I also used a few ready-made patterns without thinking too much, such as I had, I studied, and I spent some time. Those patterns came naturally because I've practiced them before.
Exactly. Now, let's make it a little more challenging. Julia, what do you usually do when you feel tired?
Usually, I take a short break. If I'm at home, I make some tea and listen to something relaxing. Sometimes, I just sit quietly for a few minutes because I feel better after I give my mind a little rest.
Excellent. And did you notice something important? Julia didn't stop to search for the perfect vocabulary. She used simple words that communicated her idea clearly.
Yes, and that's really important for English learners. Sometimes we think, I need a better word, when actually the simple word is already good enough.
Exactly. Clear English is not about using the most difficult words. It's about expressing your idea in a way that people can understand easily.
So when you practice, don't ask yourself, how can I make this sentence perfect? Ask yourself, how can I express this idea simply and clearly?
And that small change in thinking can make your speaking much faster, more natural, and more confident. Now, Julia, we've talked about thinking directly in English, using ready-made patterns, and speaking in short thought groups. But there's one more technique I really want our listeners to practice because it can train the brain to respond more quickly. And we call it the 3-second thinking technique.
I like this one because it's simple, but it can be surprisingly challenging at first. The rule is this. When someone asks you a simple question in English, don't spend 10 or 20 seconds searching for the perfect answer. Give yourself about 3 seconds. Choose a simple idea and start speaking.
Exactly. Let's demonstrate it. Julia, what did you eat for breakfast today?
I had some bread and eggs.
Great. That was quick. You didn't need a perfect sentence or a complicated explanation. Now another one. What do you usually do in the evening?
I usually have dinner with my family. Then I watch something interesting or study English for a little while.
Excellent. And here's an important point for our listeners. Your first answer does not need to be your final answer. You can start with one simple sentence and then add more information if you have more to say.
Exactly. For example, if someone asks, "What is your favorite place?" you can quickly say, "My favorite place is the park." Then, after you start speaking, you can add, "I like it because it's quiet and I can relax there."
That's the secret. Start first. Improve while you speak. Don't wait until your brain creates a perfect sentence, because waiting too long can make you nervous and slow.
So here's your challenge. Every day, ask yourself 5 simple questions in English. Give yourself only 3 seconds and then answer out loud.
And if your answer has a small grammar mistake, that's okay. Your goal is not perfection. Your goal is to train your brain to respond naturally and confidently.
3 seconds, simple English, and speak.
Exactly. The more you practice, the faster those English answers will come to your mind. Now, Julia, there's something important we need to clarify. Because when English learners hear the words think faster and speak clearer, they sometimes think that they have to speak extremely fast, like a native speaker who has been speaking English all their life.
Exactly, Jason. But speaking faster is not the same as speaking better. If you speak very quickly, but your words are difficult to understand, your listener may actually have a harder time following you. The real goal is to think faster, but speak at a comfortable and clear speed.
That's a great point. Imagine you're telling a friend about your weekend. You don't need to rush and say everything in one breath. You can say, "I had a great weekend. I went to the park with my friends. We talked, had some food, and really enjoyed the day." Those small pauses make your message much easier to follow.
And pauses are not a sign that your English is weak. In fact, a natural pause can make you sound more confident because it gives you time to organize your next idea, while your listener understands what you just said.
Exactly. Another useful tip is to make the important words clear. Don't try to pronounce every single word with the same strength. Focus on the main words that carry your message and let the smaller words connect naturally.
So remember the simple formula. Think quickly, use simple words, speak clearly, and pause naturally.
Yes! You don't need to become the fastest English speaker in the room. You simply need to become a speaker who can express ideas smoothly and make people understand you easily.
And that kind of clear speaking will make you feel much more confident in real conversations.
Exactly. Fast thinking is useful, but clear communication is the real goal. All right, Julia, it's challenge time. We've explained the techniques, we've practiced them together, and now we want our listeners to try them for themselves. Because the fastest way to improve your English speaking is not just to listen to English, but to actually open your mouth and use it.
Exactly. So, everyone listening right now, find a comfortable place, sit up straight, take a small breath, and get ready to answer 3 simple questions. Remember our rule. Don't translate, don't search for perfect words, and don't wait too long. Start speaking within 3 seconds.
Here's your first question. What do you usually do after you wake up? You have 3 seconds to start. Think of a simple answer and speak out loud. You could say, "I usually get up, drink some water, and have breakfast."
Great! Now, question number 2. What is one thing you want to improve in your life? Maybe you want to improve your English, your communication skills, your health, or something else. Start with a simple sentence like, "I want to improve my English because," and then continue with your own idea.
And here comes the final question. What are you going to do this weekend? Don't plan a perfect answer. Just start with something simple, such as, this weekend I'm going to, and keep talking for about 10 seconds.
Wonderful! And if you made mistakes, that's completely okay. The purpose of this challenge is not perfect grammar. It is training your brain to find English words faster and helping your mouth turn those thoughts into clear sentences.
Exactly. Try this challenge every day with 5 different questions, and over time, you'll notice that those 3 seconds become shorter and shorter.
Think faster, start speaking, and trust yourself.
And now, let's finish today's episode with one final lesson you should remember every time you speak English. So, Julia, before we finish today's episode, let's remember the most important lesson. You don't need to think perfectly to speak English well. You need to train your brain to think in simple English, use familiar speaking patterns, organize your ideas into short thought groups, and start speaking instead of waiting for the perfect sentence.
Exactly, Jason. And remember, fluency doesn't appear in one day. Every small conversation, every answer you practice, and every mistake you make is helping your brain become faster and more comfortable with English. So don't be afraid of mistakes. Use them as part of your progress.
If you enjoyed this episode and found these techniques helpful, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this podcast with another English learner who wants to speak more naturally and confidently.
And we want to hear from you. In the comments, write, "I will think faster and speak clearer." Then choose one technique from today's episode and practice it for the next 7 days.
Great idea! Thank you so much for learning with us today.
Keep practicing, keep speaking, and most importantly, keep believing in your English.
We'll see you in the next episode.